Good afternoon, my friends, my colleagues, my realtor members, my optimists, my relatives, and all of those who are interested in learning how to leverage real estate and how to work performance and how to increase your profit and have a better life. Now, first, I would like to sincerely thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, 4 hours, to have this live webinar with me. I truly appreciate it. I want to tell you I'm going to make it very well worth your time. Let's see if we can lay a few ground rules, because some of you say, Herb, 4 hours. How about if I have to use the bathroom? How about we have to do things? It's going to be fun, and I'm not going to talk to you the whole 4 hours. You're going to talk to me and do some exercises too. And we're going to have some exercises that we're going to have to break and you're going to have to work on. And each hour I'm going to give you a bathroom break. How's that? So, there is a agenda here, and I want you to take a look at the agenda. This is what's going on from 12 o'clock to around 12:20. I want to give you a little history about myself. I hope not to bore you to death. And then from 12:20 to 12:40, we're going to talk about, what does a performer tell you, and what are the real reasons? I got to, get you into how I started working with performers and how I got it all involved and what does a performer do for you. And then from 12:40 to 12:50, as a real estate agent, how you can use these performers to make your job really easy, to do something really well for you to increase your bottom line. Now, you may be a real estate agent or you may become an acquisitioner, because I felt at one point I wanted to be an acquisitioner. Why just keep selling people income properties and letting them get rich? But in any event, we're going to discuss that. And then we're going to talk about the different types of performers. There are performers for income producing properties and there are performers for flipping. And we're going to cover both of them, and we're just going to go over the form itself. And then we're going to take us a break, and you're going to have your bathroom break. And during that time, I'm going to ask you to fill out a goal sheet that you will find. Just go to stratheracademy.com and we're going to have you download it. But I don't want you to do it yet, because I want you to do it as an exercise. So just bear with me a little bit. And first of all, I want to bore you a little bit about myself, just so I can tell you a little bit about me. And then how I got started in real estate and then in using performance. How did I get in this in the first place? I'm taking you all the way back to Herbert Street. I'm Herbert from Herbert Street. Although I was born on Mack and Mount Elliott, that's the east side. I got off the east side. You understand what I mean? But I came to the west side on Herbert Street. So I'm Herbert from Herbert Street. And when I grew up, I got to tell you something. Man alive, I had bumps all over my face and I stuttered really bad. I didn't have much confidence. My old man was a car waxer, and I was the best car waxer in the world, and still am if somebody want to challenge me on waxing cars. I tell you that right now. I know how to lay a car out. But I didn't have very much confidence. But I remember, as a little kid, thinking if I ever get out of this deal, you understand, if I ever get out of the hood, I want to come back and rescue my community and help little kids like me escape the hood and on to the good life. Now, those people moved out of my community, and this is Warren and Scott now. For those of you in the world who may know where Warren and Scott in Detroit is, it was not a real hood back then. Some people would say it's definitely the hood now. But although it's coming back, but when people moved out, they moved out to a place called Northwest Detroit. And man, they had streets like Cherry Lawn, Rose Lawn, Green Lawn. Man, when I was a little kid, I thought that the whole streets were cherry trees and roses and things. And I used to think about one day I'm going to live on Green Lawn or Rose Lawn or something, But I always wanted to just do better, and I had a burning desire, and that's where it all starts. If you have a burning desire to succeed, you're going to be able to make it. As soon as I was lucky now. An Optimist Club came along and saved my life. They had an oratorical contest, and I entered the oratorical contest. I won. After several years, And then I became the president of Western International High School. And that's why I wear my Optimist pin right now, because I build Optimist clubs all over the world. I've built 150 clubs altogether, by the way. And but it changed my life. I wanted to be the president of everything. I had great confidence in myself. I felt I can do it. So that's another thing. You have to be optimistic. You got to believe you can do it. You have to have tenacity. You know, homeless people are about the most optimistic people I know, because they'll ask 50 people, they'll stare at 100 people to get the dollar, and they stay at it. You understand? And I'll tell you a story about that one day, about how they actually helped create the casinos. But part of this whole thing to start from fresh is to be optimistic. Now, I'm going to show you how to do it, but I need your participation. I need your mind. I need your involvement. I need your investment in yourself. So follow me really close. So when I graduated from high school, I was working in the factory, Chevrolet Gear and Axle. Got fired the 89th day. Best thing ever happened to me. Then I went and joined Bowers Realty. That was in the early 70s. I was 19 years old. And Mrs. Bowers told me, listen, you go out and get a listing every day if you want to work for me. Well, hell, I thought she was telling the truth. I thought I had to go get a listing every day. So the first day I got 2 listings. Man, I brought those listings in. I was so happy. She said, good job. Every day I went out. But there was a few days I didn't get it. And actually, I only turned in 24 listings for the month. Can you believe it? She was pretty smart, because I guess she did not let me see the listing board while they were being written down. But she showed me at the end of the month, and I couldn't believe it. I had 24 listings. Well, hell, the whole office probably only had 50 or 60. And there was 10, 12, 15, 20 people in office. Can you believe it? Me, one person, got all of those listings. Mrs. Bowers fooled me. She said, drink this juice, and I drank it. And I'm going to give you some juice. And I just want you to drink it. I want you to drink the juice, to believe that you can do it, because first of all, you got to take and believe it. And then you got to understand it. First, I want you to understand it and have confidence. But there's stuff between the line, like tenacity, being optimistic, and going for it, because just because you know how to run numbers don't mean you're going to be able to do a deal right away. But if you're optimistic and you believe you can, and you can read between the lines, then you can do a deal, because there's a deal out there to be done. So we're going to give you the skills, but you got to bring the emotions and the burning desire. And one of those things that's going to help is for you to take and have a goal, absolute goal sheet. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to want you to download the goal sheet at stratheracademy.com, and you can go right there and you'll see goal sheet. Just hit it, and it's all part of this course. And you're going to sit there and you're going to write down your goals. I want your goals. I want your thoughts on it. So how I started using ProFormas was when I decided I didn't want to sell residential real estate anymore. You know, this was a long time. I think Nixon was being impeached. Interest rates went to 12%. It went it was hard, but just selling houses. You know, houses back then was going for $30,000. It was 6% commission. So you end up making, as a lister, and I only listed, I didn't sell, because I showed a house 2 or 3 times. A couple times, if you didn't buy a house after 2 showings, that was it. I wasn't showing anymore. So I realized I wasn't the greatest salesman in the world. I was the greatest lister in the world. And so I listed and everybody else sold. That's a great thing to be a lister, by the way. But I got tired of it. I wanted to make more money. So I went out and got a book. And this is a free plug. John Peckham, wherever you're at. I got his book. It was probably 1995 back then. And I read the book about income property brokerage, and it was good. It gave me a whole lot of insights about, you know, life is much better for income property brokers. Now that's different than being a commercial broker. An income property broker could sell a 2-flat or a 100-unit building. Now, a 2-flat is residential. Today, a single house could be an income property. This never happened, by the way. This is the first time in life that the income approach is more valuable than the comparable approach. And we can talk about that a little bit, and we will touch on it later. But an income property broker does commercial acquisitions and transactions, but it's not necessarily just apartment buildings. It is income property. Now, And income property, I think, is really better than commercial property because for every parcel you got, I mean, a commercial piece, think about it, it's a very use specific, it's site specific. One corner is good, the other corner, wouldn't be as good. You want to stop at the light, and it's the corner on the right across the light. That's the prime corner, right? If you got morning traffic and you got the wrong corner, that's no good. You got to get off the expressway, get to the other side of the street, get back on. So it's very site specific, and the users are more, it's not as many users. But think about an income property. Well, hell, there's a whole bunch of buyers for income property because people want to make money and people need a place to live and have wide applications. People want places to live, so it's a safe product. It's a safe buy, and you got a lot of buyers. And I'll tell you something. If you don't have a lot of buyers, it's just you're doing something awful wrong. But I was going to tell you, you're the buyer. You understand? But before I go there, because I wanted to do that, but I wanted to first find out how to do it. So I simply got a book, read about it. It's before computers, and I would fill it out. I had a calculator. How you hit the paper, be running. I'd be figuring it out. Ding, 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 ding. But right now, I made it real easy for you. I got a ProForma for you, and with guidelines and everything, and you're going to be able to just download this. As a matter of fact, you're going to download it when we get into it. I don't want to take your attention away from me right now because I got you right now for a little bit. So I got into it and I sold my first property at 16133 Hubble. You might look at it. And it's a beautiful little 8-unit. It was just a gorgeous little building. I sold it for $80,000. Someone put $20,000 down. That was quite an experience because $80,000 was a very good price back then. There wasn't a lot of houses for $80,000. Mostly in Southfield, it was $55,000 to $60,000. Don't forget, this is back in 1974 now. $80,000, a 6% commission was $4,800, and I listed and sold that property. I had a $2,400 payday. Believe me, that is really big. I kind of smiled. That was big back then. My biggest check I ever got from a listing was $1,263,000. And I was once thinking, boy, how many houses would I have to sell to get $1,263,000 commission? That was something. But back then, that was pretty cool. I know some of you say, well, that's not much money now, and that's true. I mean, things have changed. That building right now would go for a couple $100,000, probably easy. And so the commission on it could be 5% to 7%. Commissions on income property is not quite as much as on residential. It kind of tapers off a little bit. The bigger the property, it's probably the smaller the fee. Because you do something for $10 million, it's 3%, it's $300,000. If you do something for $10 million, they're probably not going to pay you 7%. You understand? It's just probably not going to happen. But it is good to get your arms around performers. And if you want to understand it and succeed, then I want you to, first of all, make a list of what you're going to go after and try to understand and what your goals are. And I want you to focus on that, not only on just, say, income property versus residential or versus commercial. I want you to also focus on an area. Listen here, I want you to take and think about where you live, work, play, or pray. Say it for me. Live, work, play, or pray. And it's important because whatever you physically say, it penetrates your mind more and it conditions your mind more. So I always like for you to repeat it. Live, work, play, or pray. And you will remember this. If you buy something way on the other side of town and it's 3 o'clock, you try to get over there to show some tennis. By the time you get over there, they're gone. You say, the coach told me about this. He told me about this. Now, some people call me Mr. Strather. Some people call me coach. So you can call me whatever you want. You understand? I've been called a lot of different things. But I'm a nice guy. By the way, before I go too far, my main man, I want to introduce him to you, John. John, why don't you come over and let me introduce you? Because I'm going to holler at John sometime. John, keep me on track, too, on the timetable. When I'm getting pretty close, say, Herb, you got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, I'll let you know. We're about 11 minutes in already.
I'm 11 minutes in? That's good.
Yeah. And you guys are in for a really good show and really a lot of great knowledge.
Yes, thank you. That's why I pay up.
Today is payday.
Today is payday. You understand? Okay. So we're going to we're gonna carve us out a little time so that you'll have time to do the goal sheet. And it's important that you get this goal sheet done. So the question is, so that's how I got started using ProFormas, because I sold my first piece of real estate and I needed a ProForma, and I ran the numbers, and I've been in love ever since.
And Herb, that's a cue to everybody turn off their phones, just
Yeah.
like they're at a regular seminar meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, turn them off, vibrate, turn them completely
Right.
off.
Well, right. Please turn them completely off. My phone is vibrating right now.
And I'll take that phone from you,
And
sir.
if you take the phone, John, and then I can't do anything. This way, you got my full attention. You got my full attention. So that's how I got started using ProFormas, because I had a burning desire to go into real estate. I had a burning desire to make more money and do something different and not just be a real estate agent, to sell income property, to create wealth for myself and generate bigger fees. So that's how I got started. So how are you going to get started? So I want you to think about it and just think about your entire life and see. Now listen, it's nothing wrong with just loving residential properties too. You can just love to do it because you just like the art of the deal, of selling beautiful homes and knowing, being a specialist in your particular area, having those skills, making people happy. That's good. You can still do acquisitions. You can still buy real estate for yourself. That's fine. You could be the finest residential agent to do a couple $1 million worth of sales a month and then pick up a few apartment buildings along the way. That's pretty good. Now, by the way, income property is also things like, it's also commercial properties. Net leases, for an example, is not just apartment buildings. It could be a Walgreens. It could be a shopping center. These are income properties. So there's a difference between income properties and just commercial property. Would a Walgreens be considered commercial? Yes. Would a 100-unit apartment be considered commercial? Yes. Would a standalone commercial building be considered an income property? Not necessarily. Somebody may want that particular building because they want to put a restaurant in there, or a mechanical shop, or put a school in it, and they may not want to rent it and derive income off. So although income property, most income property is commercial, is not necessarily all commercial. Probably most of it is, I would think. And all of the income property we're talking about is not just apartment buildings or residential. I'm going to give you a couple examples. I'm going to probably give you residential examples right now, and I'll take you to heaven, but we got a little time for that right now. So if you got your notes, and I want you to take copious notes as you go along, and write your questions down. Write your questions down so we can answer these questions for you. So but I'm going to ask you to wait until we have a break. Maybe at the end of each hour, we can ask you if you would like to ask us some questions. And when I roll it out, then just save your questions. So what is a ProForma in the first place? You know, it was very interesting because back then, the word ProForma was not in the dictionary. And in my book, Leveraging Real Estate, the ProForma Guidelines, I say it right here. I say it's not a word you're going to find, so don't try to look it up. But you know something? This is maybe the 12th edition of me writing about ProFormas, and you can find it now. Now, you may not find it as ProForma, one word. You may find it as Pro space Forma, ProForma. And it is used as a projection on your cash flow, the economic projection. That is one of the things. What is a ProForma? What does it tell you? It can tell you the cash flow, but not only the cash flow, not only how much money you're going to make, not only the internal rate of return that you're going to get. The ProForma should also tell you the acquisition game. How are you going to acquire it? How much money you're going to need to buy this building? And you can think through and say, is this a feasible project? It will also give you yes or no. It'll tell you, yes, I should buy it. No, I shouldn't buy it. And you got to be very, very careful about how you use it. You understand? You just can't fool yourself with it. You may run numbers very optimistic, but you know you're running numbers optimistic. And it may be for the bank's assumption because you want to borrow as much money as you can possibly borrow. But you know you're not fooling yourself. You understand that you may not make a lot of cash flow up front. But if you can take and leverage a deal, that means you could take this asset, borrow against it, and buy it, and even take some tax-free cash out, as opposed to putting money down, you may very well want to do that. That's pretty cool. And yes, you heard me right. Borrow 100%, take the money down, not 100%, 110%, 105%. In other words, some girlfriend money. In other words, borrow enough money out so that you'll take and have tax-free cash. Because you know you don't pay taxes on borrowed money. Remember that. So what does the ProForma tell you? It will tell you what your projections are. It can also tell you, depending on who is looking at it, what your cost basis is, what your fix-up is, the whole shot. The whole shot. And it should tell you that it should be a complete package for you, not just numbers running across multiple. And you got to really think about it. Is everything always 5%? You know, let's say if you say I'm going to increase my rents 5%, which is an average of 2.5% for the year, because assuming that all of the apartments evenly come due, if you got 12 units and you got one each month coming due, then a 5% would average out to 2.5%. Now, if they all came due and you signed new leases in January, yeah, it'd be 5% for the whole year, but that typically is not how it is. It's spread out. So that would tell you something different. You've got to be able to understand what you're doing and how this is going to relate to you. You may be running numbers for a third party. You know, you want to be as accurate as you possibly can, as honest as you possibly can. But do you plan to take and roll those numbers all the way to January and increase everybody's rent at one time? Are you going to take, even if it's 2.5%, are you going to take 2.5% every year? What is the rent? If the rent is $575 a one bedroom and the real rent should be $675, the 5% may very well be okay, because don't forget, you're going to have 15 to 20% turnover. Those rents are going to be at the maximum, $675 day one. So you can do a little analysis. Now, if they're older people, they're not going to move out as quickly. You know, they got to go feet first usually. And so you know, if you have an active senior community, the rents are usually lower because they don't bug you for repairs and all of that as much. You know, you got to ask them, Miss Smith, is everything okay? Well, I got a little drippy faucet, but it's okay. No, I'll fix that drippy faucet, Miss Smith, because that dripping faucet is costing you a lot of money. So a ProForma should tell you an acquisition strategy is the bottom line also. It should tell you that. You understand? Now, you may have an internal one where you're running your real numbers, or you may have an external one. Instead of putting down payment, you may use the word equity, because you're not really putting any down payment, and you don't want to say you're putting it if you're not. Now, you may be putting a down payment. I like to use the word equity. You may be putting a down payment and getting it all from the commission. Hell, there's programs I can show you where you could borrow 96.5% on an income property, of course, on a 4 flat if you're going to live in one, right? Well, how about, can you charge 10% commission? Is it illegal? I don't think so. And I don't think, it has to be reasonable, and 10% is reasonable. If it's 7%, well, hell, if you're only putting 3.5% down and you're getting a 7% commission, right then you're taking cash out at closing. If you're the buyer, right then. You don't have to go any further. Now, I know what you're saying, closing costs, but that's all built in and structured in the deal. And as we go through a ProForma, I'll show you how to structure that. Because for sure, I am not a fan of anybody taking and paying closing costs Let the seller pay it. Yeah, let the seller pay it. Just increase the price. Give me a break. Not unless you can't borrow anymore at your very top, and that's what you want to do. So the real reasons to be using ProFormas is so that you can get a handle on what you want to buy the property for, so that you can take and present it to investors, so that you can get the people who may want to invest in you to invest. That's a different format, or to the bank, so that the bank will take and loan you the money that you need. That's certainly another format. But that don't mean the numbers are fungy all over the place. It's a question of how it is presented. For an example, a management fee. You can make a management fee 8%, or you can make it 5%. You understand? Especially if you're the one charging. Now, so you may tell the bank 5% because that's cool. The bank have the option of upping that, and right now they may take it up to 8%. But they usually kind of not have a hard position on it. And don't forget, the appraisers wasn't going to weigh in on it a lot too. But you may have a suggestion that is 5 or 6%, and they may go with it because you're going to turn in a ProForma for them. Here's the juice, Mr. Appraiser, that I want you to drink. Here are the comparables. Now, when you're dealing with commercial property, yes, you can still discuss it with them. I know there's kind of a no hands-on policy, hands-off, but you can supply appraiser with information, and in that information is your story. You can certainly do that. The reasons for you running ProFormas is so that you can more accurately accomplish what you want to do with the lenders, the banks, the investors, and yourself. Everybody, the appraiser, the lender, the investor, yourself. These are all the people that's going to be reading and looking at these ProFormas. And you got a chance to impact them, but you got to know what the purpose of you running that number is. That is very, very important. Whose eyes is this intended for? Is this intended for the bank's eyes? Is this intended for the investor eyes? Because, for example, an investor may want an internal rate of return. We call it IRR. Now, the lender is not that particular in terms of the internal rate of return. You know what the lender want to know? They want to know about the debt coverage ratio. A good debt coverage ratio. And the debt coverage ratio is to what extent does your net income covers your debt service. And I know I'm throwing out some big words and we haven't got there, but if you got $1 worth of a principal payment, somebody's going to want $1.25 worth of cash to do that. So your net operating income would be the $1.25, and the dollar would be the debt service. So that's 125% debt coverage. So it covers your debt 125%, which is kind of standard. It depends on who the lender is, but you can get them as low in many cases as 115%. Okay, so that's the reason that you want to use ProForma, because it's business, so you can look at the numbers so you don't make mistakes. So it forces you, for example, to go find out what the tax bill is. I mean, you could take the tax bill and say, oh, here's what the tax is, this is what you pay. But if you're doing a projection, you have got to get the actual tax bill, because that actual tax bill will tell you something, won't it? It'll tell you what the assessment is. And once you close that deal, what happens? Uncapped value. I mean, when you have a pretty bad day, my colleagues and my friends, you went and bought a building and just took the taxes that the seller gave you. You didn't look at the uncapped value, then you're not using the ProForma perfectly, or as you should, because the facts of the matter is that every single line item you got to verify and figure it out. And especially when you're just starting off, you're too young to make mistakes. You can get wiped out at closing by doing something so super stupid. I've seen people do it before. They come in and put no money down for maintenance. And I said, what you mean you didn't have any money? Well, I'm going to give the manager, they could have, we're going to give them a free unit and they can take the laundry income. And it's a 60 unit. I don't think so. You're going to give them more than that. They'll run the numbers And then if they are a broker that's running numbers, turning around and giving it to an unsuspecting investor, an investor maybe have money but not be so sophisticated. They may drink the juice that you give them, but that juice is going to be a little sour later because you didn't do your homework. So you want to take and give projected figures, good solid numbers when you are using your performance, and then you are using them for what they should be used for, to underwrite the asset, to project the net operating income, to strategize what the assessment or the structure is after you have went through the numbers and verified them. So from A to Z, you understand, you want to be able to use projections if you're trying to figure out what the rents are. How are you going to run a projection if you don't really know what the rents are? Well, if you got a good ProForma, it will push you to get the rents. You've got to go out and look at 4 or 5 other apartment buildings. What are the competitors doing? And we're going to get in all of that in the numbers as we go through the ProForma. We go through it together, so I won't bore you with it. Now I'm going to get your mindset ready. So let's kind of move this along. John, how are we coming, by the way?
On time, we are at 30 minutes exactly.
Oh, we're at 30 minutes exactly. So make your job selling easier using ProForma. So here's what I want you to do right now. Before I get into different types of performance, I want you to go to Strather Academy. I want you to download Assessing Yourself. Download that, and then download Setting Goals. And I want you to just do assessments right now. Just assess yourself. You should be able to finish this in about 15 minutes. Do the assessment, and then there may be some questions you have, but it forces you to take a introspective look at yourself. Now I'm going to set the watch here for 15 minutes, John. So we'll be right back. We want to stay on course because I want to talk to you about what you have got yourself into here. Making money for yourself, getting rich. Did you know that? Did you intend to do that accidentally? I got it set for 16 minutes. That's close enough.
Can you make it full screen, Herb?
Should I make it full screen? Yes. So I want everybody to look at the screen, make sure that you be back at the end of this 15 minutes. And your job is to go to Strather Academy, download Assessing Yourself, and fill out that assessment sheet. Also download the goals. Okay, everyone. So you went through the assessment and you did an assessment. Now you say, Herb, what does this assessment have to do with running ProFormas? Although this is about how to run ProFormas, those of you who are running them are doing them for a reason. And that reason has to be either to be a better real estate agent or to be an investor. I would think is one of those, or a syndicator. So we needed to flush that out. What are your capabilities? What is your time? And this is all with a view towards you being an income property broker, an income property agent, you being a very sophisticated investor. And the question is, quite truthfully, do you have what it takes? Do you have what it takes to do that? Now, for sure, one of the things that you're going to need, and if you're going to be in this business is running numbers, you're going to need Excel. You're going to have to understand how Excel works. And it's not that hard. It's not that difficult. When I started running Excel spreadsheets shortly from now, you're going to see, well, this wasn't so hard. We're going to run Excel numbers, but you're going to have analytical skills. You're going to have a car. You're going to have to take and have a good family network and support. Now, there are three things to this: assess myself, see am I qualified to be successful in this new arena of running numbers and doing deals. You're going to, like I said, you're going to definitely need support. You're going to be able to have to carve out time. I carve out my times in the mornings. I normally get up around 3:30 or 4 to about 6 o'clock, and I run my numbers and I do a lot of stuff. And then sometime I may watch a little news and doze off, and then get back up around 8 o'clock and get ready to get to the office. But it's very quiet then. I can really think it through. So one of the things is to assess yourself. Now there's something else I'm going to ask you to do. And that's going to be a little bit easier and it could probably be motivating, but you don't have to do nothing but watch it. Now that you've assessed yourself, I want you to go in and look at The Secret. It's on YouTube. Just going to look at The Secret on YouTube and you're going to really get into it. But no, I'm not fixed to cut you loose yet. So don't go to The Secret yet because I'm not finished with you. And then I'm going to want you to take and run your goals. What are your goals? So you've now assessed yourself, my capabilities, what I have. Then you're going to use The Secret, which really motivates you to unleash your thinking, unleash your potential. And then you're going to take and now lay your goals out. Because let me explain to you something about goals and how it relates. You could have goals. If I ask you, have your goals? Yeah. What are they? Well, I want to do this, that, and the other. Are they in writing? No. They're not goals. They're thoughts. I have thoughts. And you could call them goals in general. Yeah, I want, to be rich, Herb. You understand?
A mansion and a yacht, Herb.
A mansion and a yacht. You understand? So, but you have 60,000 thoughts a day. Can you imagine 60,000? You can't even imagine. You know what 60,000 thoughts a day is? That's a lot of thoughts. But think about how much time you have. 60 minutes to an hour, and you have 24 of them. So, I mean, you got a lot of minutes, and you got a lot of thoughts, and they're clicking about a thought a minute, or not even a minute. In a minute, how many thoughts you have. Just think about it. So you have got to be able to extract these thoughts out of your mind and onto a sheet of paper. So this is a mindset. You say, Herb, what you're talking about, how you got started, what performance is going to do, what is the reasons for them, how are you going to make our job easier? You're coupling this with a mindset session with us. You understand? And that's exactly right. Because I am conditioning your mind to be successful in using ProFormas. And you've got to make up your mind, if you make up your goal, if you know where you're going, if you get motivated, to go and run numbers and use Excel. You cannot make it without using Excels. And if you know how to do Excel, can you do an IRR? Can you do an internal rate of return? It's easy to do. Right now on YouTube, every single thing you want, just type it in, it pops up, it gives you all your free tutorials. So, I shouldn't say everything, because you may run ProFormas, and yeah, you may be able to just run a standard ProForma, but you're not going to find what I'm telling you. A lot of people talk about doing deals without putting up cash, taking cash out. Have you ever seen anybody do it? Do you know how to do it? Before you enter this, can you tell me how you would do it? You say, Herb, I'm paying you, aren't I? Yeah. But I want to make sure I'm going to give you a positive and contributory value. I'm going to show you how to take cash-free money out at closing. That's cash-free. And why is it cash-free? Can somebody tell me? It's cash-free for a very simple reason. You don't pay taxes on borrowed money. So write all of this stuff down. Write all of this down. Now, is there a way you could end up paying taxes? Yeah. You know, you can charge yourself a commission. That's ordinary income. But you know what is so great? If you spend most of your time in real estate, then all of your income is protected with depreciation. So it doesn't matter at the end of the day. That's kind of interesting. Even if you pay tax, you got depreciation. And I'll show you how that model worked to finance a deal and take out free cash to spend and have depreciation and spend some of that cash on expenses, then theoretically you're going to have a carry forward, and a carry forward for 60 months. Can you believe a carry forward to go forth for 60 months? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, so we're going to make your job easier because you know how to take and do a beautiful presentation. You know, you can take and do you can tell someone, listen, the rent over here is $900, and you know you got taxes and insurance, and once you take it out that collectively, they're $300. You're going to make $600 a month, and you're going to make your mortgage payment, and you're going to have $250 cash flow. The quick and dirty little trick, yeah. But you know, to do it right, to explain it right, so people understand the consequences of it all. The people understand that the management fee, they got to travel, they got to pay gas, they got to put their time in. Your return on your dollar have to be after you've gotten paid for all of these things. And if you do a professional presentation with a nice picture, with a spreadsheet, with a cap rate determination sheet, you know, then you will have a very loyal following because your investors knows you know what the hell you're talking about. And one other thing too, suppose you go up to a bank, the income is this. They're going to say, what income are you talking about? Are you talking about the gross income? Are you talking about the total rents you collect? That's your income. You call that income. But when you think about income, there's a lot of words that have the word income on a ProForma. You understand? So if you learn how to do this here, you can be more articulate when you're talking to a bank. Throw out a word like a debt coverage ratio, debt service coverage, debt constant. You understand? When you talk about income, can you talk about the gross rental income? Are you talking about the effective gross income? Are you talking about the net operating income? Are you talking about the cash flow? Are you talking about the income after your depreciation? Are you talking about EBITDA income? Now, for the purposes of our projection, we're not going to really get deep into the depreciation. We're going to touch on it, but we're going to stick with cash flows and how to structure these transactions. That's with your income property. So we're rolling on over now. You know, when you think about these different ProFormas and different things, so your income property ProForma is one thing, and then your flipping ProForma is something completely different. And have you really done a ProForma for flipping? Well, I want to garnish your attention now, and I'm ready to get started. Let's get into the different types of ProFormas. So the first thing we're going to do is a standard projection. A standard projection. This is how they look. And for the purposes of education, I have included right here instructions on how to derive at these numbers. Now let's start with the ProForma. First of all, it's on a Excel spreadsheet, and as you notice, there's columns A, B, C. Of course, this is a quick course in Excel, so it's alphabetical running across, and down it is numerical. So if I said C5, you go to C5, and you got it. Nothing is there. But B5, of course, is the capitalization rate for year one, and then year two, you can use that. You may take a building that's in pretty tough shape, or a block that's in pretty tough shape. You buy up the houses in a block, you can decrease the cap rate, which jumps the value. Now we get into the explanation of how that happens. The lower the cap rate, the lower the return you want, the higher the price you're going to pay. And we'll talk about that. I don't want to blow that, but I do want to show you how these are done. This is the income property broker performer, and you're going to put in your assumptions, your cap rate, your number of units, your vacancy collection factor. Even if you are full, you still have a factor. People are going to move out. Your vacancy collection factor, your insurance costs per unit, your maintenance costs, your management fee, your water and sewer per unit, your gas per unit, your electric. Even if you don't pay it, you still want to put it in there and let people know that you don't pay. Electric per unit, cap replacement, capital item replacements, roof item, like that. Operating expense growth. What are your operation expense going to be year 2, 3, 4, 5? Your first mortgage interest rate, the term in months, and what we call the debt rate. Now, debt rate is a component of the cap rate, so we're not going to quite get there yet, but we will get there, and it is a very important number, and it has a tremendous impact on value. Interest rates have a direct one-to-one impact on value almost, because it determines the cap rate, it determines how much cash flow, it determines the market value. The higher the interest rate, you're going to push your value down. So you have a secondary debt constant. This is secondary financing, whether it's a second mortgage or using your LLC or your entity, security in your entity to secure it. And then the percent finance, you're going to type that in. Now these items populate the ProForma. So here we have the studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms. And what's so great about this ProForma, if you want to take and make it, if you don't have any studios, you want to make it 4 bedrooms, or if you want to hide it to make it shorter, just hit it and hide. Isn't that something? You can hide it without taking the formulas out, but you got to be careful when you hide things, because you have to make sure there are no formulas in there. There are no numbers in there, because you'll never be able to figure it out. If things are not working out, just go to this side column here with the numbers and make sure it is in numerical order. It's not like 24 and then go to 28, because you'll know that you got 25, 26, and 27 missing, and they may have numbers in there. But you're going to plug in your rent roll. This is how they look. We're going to review these performers and get ready. That's the stabilized rent roll. Now you can change the titles. You know, you can make it first year rent roll or current rent roll. There's the difference. Stabilized rent roll is the same as market rate rent roll, or you may have the second year rent roll. I'm sorry. Let me have a little bit more of this good water. You want to know what I did last night, right? Okay, don't worry. So your gross rental income, that is derived from the rents you plugged in. Your other income is applicable if you have more than 2 units, usually, because you're not going to have laundry income on 2 or 3 units, and maybe not even a 4 unit, but you can certainly have it in apartment buildings. So you have your vacancy factor, you have effective gross income. Now let's go through it. You have your taxes, insurance, and it's been populated. The only things that in yellow do you have to plug in. But the insurance, repairs, payroll, and taxes, you got to plug that in. Property management fees, water, gas, electric is all derived from your assumptions. Your legal, audit, administrative, marketing, and other is derived from you plugging the number in yourself. So your total operating expense, your operating expense per unit, you have to be between a couple of numbers when you're talking about your operating expense per unit. Now you got to go, you skip over the debt service and all of that, that's filled in automatically. And we have a market value at closing derived at a certain cap rate. It consists of your net operating income and the cap rate you had above. I'm throwing numbers out. We're going to go slow when we go through it, because I'm going to take you slowly through these numbers. But I want to let you know what you're up for, so you can get ready and get you a drink. A drink of water. Because you're going to need your mind ready and sharp. And I hope you didn't do anything last night. Friday night. Okay, offer price to seller net. That's what the seller's going to get. You're going to add your closing costs. You're going to add your repair. You're going to add your fees. That's the gross selling price. I was playing around with this a little bit, and we'll get there. Don't worry. I know these numbers are off. 15.7. I just plugged it in so I have them right. Oops, no, 15.6. 15.6. I don't care. Yes, ma'am, Darlene. How you doing today?
We're doing
This
great.
is my secretary. This is good.
You
Who is
shouldn't
that?
have her working on a Saturday, Herbert.
Yes.
No, but I thought you do it. Okay,
Yes, you're going to the bank.
I did already.
Oh, good.
Okay.
She want to let me know she went to the bank and she put money in. That's good news. I don't have any problem with that, John. You have any problem with that?
I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay, she probably put your tuitions in. Okay, that's good. Okay, so let's keep going. Once again, I'm very happy that you all tolerate me. You know, I hope my jokes are a little funny because, you know what, I hate to be in any kind of class. The guy ain't funny, the lady. Now, if it's a lady and she's fired, I could tolerate that, you understand? But a guy who ain't funny, man, give me a break. I got other things to do in my life. Okay, the new mortgage, your total debt you got, that your equity needed, your down payment, closing costs, the gross amount you need, the total credits, your net equity needed. In this example, it's just the 3.5% that is needed. But we're going to show you how to really pull cash out. And then we're going to go over the source, uses of cash, source of cash, uses of cash, and the excess. Like if you didn't have any equity that you had to put down at all, oops, we better go back to that. But this value proposition here it'll be filled out. I just wanted to show you. And then you have your repairs. This may give you a little clue of what's going on. But you have the retail value of repairs, what your real cost is, whether you do it or your cousin do it. And then we have this little thing at the bottom here is our cap rate determination. What's the equity rate, the debt rate, and what's the blend? And we're going to go through that. Now, this ProForma, I want you to study, and you get a copy of this ProForma. You can go on the website and you're going to download that, and you're going to study it with me, and I'm going to give you a little bit of time to absorb it. After that, now this is a flip ProForma. Sometimes you say, hey man, I bought it for 20, I put 10 in, it was 30, I sold it for 50, made 20, had a little cost. But do you really know what your cost is when you undertake one of these? Just real quick, you have your after repair value, which is derived from your comps. I guess you know how to work multi-list, you can figure out what your comps are. You got a purchase price, you got rehab costs, which is all laid out. And then you got holding costs. How many of you really calculate your holding costs? Your interest, carrying your electric, gas, utilities, your quieting title, your closing costs, your transfer tax. How many of you really figure it out? Okay? So you got your holding costs, your total costs, your gross profits, less concessions to buyer. If you want to sell it, give it up the price, give concessions. That's good news. Just like you take cash out and close it, maybe let them take some cash out too, okay? But at least let them lower their closing costs legally, acceptably. And everything, by the way, is legally. You're just clever, okay? Let's put it like that. Net profit to developer. And then how about the flip? So you can make you $36,000, but you got to invest all this money. How about you tie up the property, have flipped it without even buying it, made you $6,600, and you did that 3 or 4 times a month. Okay, the number, and we'll show you where to get the properties. I'll spend a little time on it to show you how to find properties in a buoyant marketplace. The number of units, the average rent. This is an income approach. Bing, bing, bing. We've already went through the income approach on the other sheet, but this is a quick income approach. Annual gross rents to property taxes, insurance, maintenance, NOI. So you got a cap rate 10%, if that's what your cap rate is, but we'll get there. The value by income approach is 62. That's the value by income approach. Your comp value might be 70. So that's probably not true because the income approach is usually higher. But don't pay no attention to this yet. You know what? I'll just stay true to myself and increase it. There you go. Now it's higher. How's that? So this is what you're fixed to learn. So what would I like for you to do? Okay. I want to finish off the mindset piece right now, if you don't mind. So I'm going to ask you to just take 5 minutes, and I'm going to ask you to look at the secret. I want you to go and assess the secret for yourself right now. And to get your mind more motivated, look at the secret for me. And then I want you to get a hold of this book. Now, the secret will get you motivated, but I don't want to take out too much time all at once on everything. The next thing you're going to do is your goal sheet, and you're going to be finished with the mindset, but we'll take and get in there. But this book is the ProForma, and I'm going to go through this ProForma with you. So if you have a little time later, you can flip through this ProForma, and you can get slightly familiar with it as you go through it. It's always a good thing to kind of pre-read them. So I've given you the ProForma outline, which you can download the ProForma and the guidelines, and you can take a sneak preview at the ProForma guidelines, because I'm going to get you ready, and we're going to go through it.
Herbert,
So,
can you take them through how to download or where to go on the website?
yes, I want you to go to stratheracademy.com.
Can you show them on the computer?
Sure, let's go to stratheracademy.com right on the computer, and you can do it with me. Just type in Strather Academy. Now, oops, you're looking at my emails too.
It just went off of it. Okay, we're back on.
Okay, we're back on. Just go to the bottom of the page, and you will see right here where it says I am going to have this fixed for you very quick. You would have classes and products. Go there, and then you will find out the ProForma guidelines right here. And the ProForma guidelines come with it. As a matter of fact, you should actually, John, they already have them. We have sent them, but if you do not have them, you can go to ProForma guidelines and download it. How does that sound? Just go there and download it if you do not have it. It's a copy of this book, and it should be already in your mailbox. The ProForma guidelines in your mailbox, or the ProForma with guidelines. You should already have it, John. They should already have it, and if they don't, you can go there. And if there is a problem, we would like for you to text us 313-407-4930. Just text us, and we will see to it that you get it. I hope it's not too confusing, but everything is live. It's all the way live, everybody. This is Saturday Morning Live. Okay. So let's go over it again. The Secret on YouTube. You're going to look at it. You're going to spend about 5 minutes because it's going to get you going. Okay. Then you're going to take and you're going to look at. You're going to quickly review your leveraging book just to get ready. I've already reviewed the ProForma with you, and you're going to look at the guideline. Just kind of read through it really quick. Listen, John, how much time do they have?
Oh, how much time do they have?
Yes.
They have about 10 minutes to review everything, 10 to 15 minutes.
Well, let's give them 15 minutes so they make them happy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now how many people, that makes me a nice guy to give you 15 minutes. You see, I know what you're thinking. You're going to go get you something to eat. Okay. 15. I just cheated them, John. They got 2 seconds. Okay.
Yeah, let's widescreen it. Speaking of getting everything.
We're back. I hope you enjoyed that exercise. You know, the secret is really something. And, you know, where we left off in terms of the different types of performers, the income performer, the flipping performer, and, you know, identifying what a performer contains. I think we've kind of reviewed that very quickly already. And the actual performer guidelines is what we want to get into. Now, I want to give you some really great news. Some of the stuff we're doing is going to be exercises that you're going to have to do. And the last hour is really going to be an exercise for you to run performers. And then I want you to take those performers and at the end of the day, send me a final copy of the performer that you do. That's the good news. You're going to run the numbers. You're going to run the performers. So I want to...
forgot to mention about the money, Herb.
Yeah. I ran to the bank with John, you understand, because he was on the phone talking and he was buying a ticket, you understand? So I said, wait, John, let's go. So I went to the bank with him. He didn't say anything, you understand? He was on his way to Vegas, you understand? John, you're my main man, but that's tempting. I told him to go close his deal to take his cash out. Now, he's working on one, too, by the way, a nice one. He's going to take out about $40,000. John, I should have you up here talking about it. See, I could talk about it all day long because I've done it a lot of times, but I'm not successful until you do it, until you actually take cash out. And in our course, Strather Academy, you have to close a deal. You just can't waltz in and waltz out. No. The purpose of me talking to you right now is to enhance your earnings so you can make a deal, so that you can buy real estate, so you can successfully sell real estate, so you can make somebody's dream happy. Because you can get anything out of life you want if you're willing to help enough people get what they want. So my job is to help you get what you want. And I hope that is, especially if you're being mentally enhanced, you know, you've assessed yourself, you look at the secret, you're going to lay out your goals in a minute, A to Z. That's a hell of a thing. But I want to get into the guidelines really quickly so that we would understand. Now, the guidelines can be found right here in this book. I'd like to review them again really quickly for you to make sure that you understand what they are. And I'd like you to just follow through with me. I promise this exercise won't be but about 5 minutes. You'll find it, the Performer Guidelines, and you have a copy of that. That's part of what you paid. The equity rate, debt rate, blended rate, the cap rate, the capitalization rate. Now, a cap rate is let's go to the performers, the actually performers that we're going to be using. The performers can be found, as I indicated, you have the performer and the guidelines, and you have what you call a dual performer. So let's take a look at it and see what it's all about. This is it. An income performer. So I want to go and start from the top. It's called a cap rate. So you have to derive what you call a cap rate. Now, what is a cap rate? It is a rate of return. Whatever return that you're willing to accept. And if you're in downtown Birmingham, you might say, I'll take a 5 or 6% return. And if you're in the tough area of Detroit, you might want a 15% return. If you're in a booming area that has a whole bunch of upside, you'll take a smaller return if it's stable and have a lot of upside, appreciation potential. So let's take Midtown Detroit, for example. 5 years ago, it was the poorest county zip code in the state of Michigan. It was the second poorest. It had 48.93% poverty rate. That's pretty low. Right now, and the cap rate had to be 15 to 20% because you want to go down there in Cass Quarter and buy some, good luck. You understand? That's the place that you didn't want to run out of gas at night. Now, look at it. It's booming. People are moving around. And instead of being the poorest county, it has the highest appreciation rate in the entire United States. No zip code has jumped as more than Cass Corridor, more than 48201. So now, here again, you may, and it's still booming, it's still climbing. So somebody may take 6% cap rate because they know that the rents are going to increase dramatically still. There's plenty of room for the rents increasing because there's rents all over the place. They're anywhere from $1.25 to $3. You know, right down the street from each other. So you know you have buoyancy, there's rent potential. But if you buy it in one, where the rent is $1.25 per square feet, That's one number. You may buy it at a 6%, but would you buy it if the rents were already at $3? You may say, hey, it's already reached its potential. $3 a square feet per square foot is the maximum rent right now that you can get, and you may not want to pay 6% in that particular case. So it is a question of safety of your money and depreciation rate. Now, I've made it quite easy for you, and at the very bottom of the ProForma, I've done what you call a cap rate determination, and for our purposes, let's just kind of put it in green here so you can follow me really quickly. Now, I want to tell you what I'm going to do for you here. I'm going to make life easy. Let's do this here. Let's do it a little, great. Now, cap rate determination, there's an equity rate and there's a debt rate. The equity is the amount of money that you put down. What kind of cash flow you want on that? What kind of rate of return? If you put down 20%, do you want a 10% return, a 12%, a 15%, or 6%? You need a return on your money. And the debt rate is the rate that the lender wants. That's the interest rate plus the principal payments combine them together. And the debt rate is really easy. It's one of the first things that you have near the top. The cap rate. Go here to the mortgage rates. The mortgage rate is 4.75 and it's 360 months. Then the debt rate is 6.26. 6.26. Now, usually on the income property, if you really buy it for income, you're going to have to put 20% down. In this case, if it's 360 months, if it's a 96.5% mortgage, you're really buying it to live in. But for all practical purposes, the appraiser is going to take what a typical down payment would be and a typical return. In other words, they're going to extract what the market cap rate is, not necessarily what you are paying for the property, because you're only putting 3.5% down. So, I mean, you could get 100% return on 3.5%. You know what I mean? It kind of screws the cap rate for me a little bit. So they'll take 20% down, and which is what you have to put down if you're buying an income property, not to live in. So let's just say that you're buying it, it's 4.75, it's 30 years, it's 2.62. So in this example, 6.62 would be the debt rate. And let's say you're putting 20% down and you want a 12% return. So let's just see what it is. I'm going to use 2 decimals to take us out and make sure it's simple. And we go up here in the corner and hit this little button here, and that gives us our total. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. No, here we go. That's a mistake. Plus 20 times 12 is, oops, we want a percentage here, so let's make these percents. You following me? And let's make this here, it's 2.4, right. Okay, 20%. So this is only 20% of the allocation is 20% down, and then you got 80% the mortgage. So this is what it is, the equity, the debt, 20% on the equity, 80% is the mortgage. You want 12% return on your equity, and your debt rate, we know what it is 6.26. So I just copied this formula, copy it, put it here. Bingo, 5.0. Let's look at this. So the overall cap rate in this case is, come on, give it to me. Give it to me, give it to me. Hey, I'm going out to Cedar Point. Anybody like to go with me? 7.41. John, you want to go to Cedar Point?
Let's go.
Let's go to Cedar Point. So in this case, it's 7.41. Now, I'm a little greedy. I like 20% on my money. So suppose you wanted the 20%. Instead of 12%, suppose you wanted 20%. Woo-hoo-hoo. Greed. Now all of a sudden it's a 9% cap rate. 20% on your money. The debt rate is 4.75. Now it's 9%. Now you could round these cap rates off, but all practical purposes, let's come to 9%. I'm going to run a ProForma first, just a regular 2 flat. And I'd like you to pull out your computer and you're going to run it with me. Okay, I want you to pull it out so we do this together. And if you have any questions, just 313-407-5400. 4930. I would prefer for you to just to text me if you have a question. Number of units are 2. The vacancy factor, this is a 2-flat now, not a duplex. 2 flats stand on top of each other. Duplexes are like this. Duplexes are more profitable because everything is separate. On the 2 flats, you may have 1 water meter coming in. You could have 1 furnace coming in, you know what I mean? Hopefully you have 2. In this example, we're going to have 2. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 Main Street. Okay, vacancy factor is 7. And don't forget, vacancy is vacancy and collection. It's just not, vacancies. People got to pay you. And listen, if they paid you like very, very timely, one day they're going to move. I guarantee you, one day they're going to move. If they paid there 60 years, they're going to die and they're going to go. And you have to fix it up. But you don't have 100% occupancy usually. If it's a multiple. Now on a single house you can get it. People can stay there a long time. And even on a 2 flat, if you only got 2 units, you make it just have them a long time, you can have the perfect tenant. But you need to put a factor in there. And that could be 5%. You said, listen, Miss Smith, she ain't going nowhere. She's been around a long time. So I'm going to put 7% because I'm conservative. The insurance cost, and right this column here tells you, so $300 for apartments, I'm going to say that might even be a little bit more nowadays. And I'm going to take it to $350. And you could do that. But call and get a quote. Get a quote is what I want you to do. Call your agent and ask them. They'll tell you. Maintenance costs $600 a unit. That's about right. Because when you first buy, you want to fix the property up. You don't want to take the cash flow and have to improve it because now if you have no choice, I understand that, but it's better to separate it, to do the fix up, because whatever the cash flow is, your earnings is 10 times the cash flow or 12 times the cash flow. So when you take $1,000 and use it towards maintenance or something that needs to be done that you didn't pay for when you originally bought it, you've just took $10,000 or $12,000 worth of value away from the building. Because don't forget, the value is 10 times that cash flow. So $1,000 is worth $10,000 to $12,000. So, but let's use $600 because this is assuming you're going to have it already fixed up, move-in ready, and you don't have to take and fix it up as you go. And if you do that, just call it capital so you don't mess up your balance sheet. Don't call it. But see, you're going to write it off because it's taxes. But, so usually when you fix it up and then when you get ready to sell it, all of that stuff is done. You have a nice, smooth income sheet that shows normal expenses for maintenance. So you have water and sewer is $500. You have a management fee, and yes, you got to charge. Yes, you charge yourself because your time is worth something. You got gas, you got to go back and forth. And you may have a management company. By the way, I do not like the idea of you having the mortgage, like you got a $100,000 mortgage, you're going to turn around and give it to a management company. And they'll charge you $50, $75 a month. What kind of interest do they have? A $50 a month interest? $75, you got a mortgage payment, you got $100,000. Why don't you do it? I do not like the idea of turning something over to a management company and giving them the keys to the kingdom. No. You understand? Now, if you need some help, that's different, but I want you to learn the skills yourself. Water and sewer runs about $550 a unit. It keeps going up. The ProForma was $450 last year, now it's $550. The gas per unit is running, here they pay their own gas, they pay their own lights. Now, if this was a large building, I would put some money in there for gas anyway, because in the wintertime, if you got 100 units, people move out, you want to keep the place heated. So you have a small gas bill. Now, that could also be built into the vacancy and collection factor. You're going to lose some rent, so you can have some extra, or you can have some additional utility costs on vacant units. So you can kind of capture that in there. But typically you put it a little bit in each one of these. Electric, same thing. When they move out, you want the electric still available so you can shampoo the carpet, you can do everything you need to do. You got me? We following each other? Okay, cap replacement. This is the capital items like the roof, the windows, carpeting, countertop. Now you could say garbage disposal, it's a small item. I would say no. I would just use it as maintenance because it's not a big item, but it is it is a piece of equipment. To that extent, it's capital, but it's too small to me. Operating expense growth is 3%. Your first mortgage interest rate, first mortgage term, 30 years, 360 months, and your first mortgage debt constant. That's part of our capitalization. We already got that part. So it's 4.75% interest rate, 30 years, 6.26. You got a secondary debt constant is 0%. Percent finance is 96.5%. Cool. Okay. So let's say I got this kind of filled out already, but let's say it's 2 units, and right now it's $825. We put it in there. And then let's mix it up a little bit. Let's say it's one bedroom. See, that moves down there too, and it's 1 2-bedroom. And the 2-bedroom is $900. Oops, 1 2-bedroom and 1 1-bedroom. And let's say that the 1-bedroom is $750. I mean, this is a nice place, right? So the 2-bedroom, the stabilized rent is probably, let's say the stabilized rent is $1,000. Let's say it's on down in around 12th Street or around Hazelwood and Woodward, one of those areas there that's really booming and coming back, and say that the 1-bedroom really could be $850. That's the stabilized rent roll, and say you're off Woodward somewhere where the rents are really $1 to $2 a foot. They could be twice this even. So your gross rental income is $19,800, and then stabilized is $22,200. Now this could say stabilized. It could say first year. You could change this to say first year rent roll or current rent roll. And think about it. It is meant to say this is how much, this is my average rent I expect to get the first year if you use first year. If you use current, then that's a different situation. Now, I know we're going through and identifying what's all contained into the ProForma, but I know it's Saturday, and I'm going to give you all a little break because I'm going to kind of combine what we're doing to kind of get through it with you, because I want you to run some of these numbers and get very familiar, and you just don't want to listen to me talk all day. So we got the cap rate, as you understand. As I'm in the book, I told you to identify it and go through it and look at it. So you should be pretty much familiar with it. I don't have to really look at it. There's more details here, and you can just go right in and just read through it. So part of your homework is now to completely read through the ProForma, not just, I want you to go through it all the way. So you have to stabilize rent roll, right? So now let's look at this here. You got gross rents, other income. Other income on apartment buildings may be 3.5%, and that's really laundry, late fees. For a 2 flat, the answer is you don't have any. Typically. Now, I know you may get some late fees and stuff, but you could put a little bit in there, maybe 1% or so, because what you're saying is that I'm going to get my rent late sometime. Look, if you got a 10-unit, yes. If you got 1 unit or 2 units, you have to assess yourself whether or not you think you're going to get other income. Total gross income is the combination of gross rental and other, and then you got vacancy. That's already a product of the 7%. It populates the spreadsheet. So your effective gross income, what we call EGI, your effective gross income is $18,414 or $20,646. You got that? So let's look at this. Now, property taxes, you can get property taxes. If you're a realtor, you can just go to Realcom and get it, or go to Wayne County, and pay property taxes online, and just go hit that, and you can pull them up just like that. Let's do it. Oh, I got it already up, but I want to take you through it so you can do it the right way. WayneCounty.com. Simple. You come to this site, and then you go down, and you hit pay taxes. Now, if the taxes are already paid, then it's not going to come up. Only delinquent taxes come up. You can go to Why Don't We Own This? Why Don't We Own This? Or MakeLoveland.com. It's the same site. Give me an address, somebody. Okay, let's I'm trying to figure out, do I have any addresses that I can use? I got to owe taxes somewhere. Where I know I got one I bought the other day. I haven't paid the taxes on it yet. So street, and what street is this here? Manor. Anybody want to buy a house? It's a great deal. What do you say? Okay, let's just look at it, and then you hit in municipality. Now, I know that you say, Herb, I got it. Don't take me through there. Just get to the money, man. Look at this. This is the taxes. So this lady owes 2015 and 2016, but 2017 was paid. So we paid 2017, and we somehow 2016 should have been paid. But in any event, these two are paid already. So it's $4,633.98 that's owed. But I would derive it here. I would say, oh, so the tax is 18. Now, you know, they go up 5% a year. So you can guess. Because don't forget, this is a pro forma. A pro forma is projection of the future. This is not a T12, what we call a trailing 12. A trailing 12 tells you, a trailing 12 will give you what happened the last 12 months. So you could use an operating statement for that. But it's normally 10%. If you don't have it, just plug in 10% of the gross income, somewhere around there. Now, this should tell you something, too. Let's say the property taxes is $1,000 and you're grossing 18. That should tell you, go pull the tax bill and see what it says, what the assessed value is, because once you buy it, it uncaps. Oh, my God, what do you mean? It uncaps. It goes for the full assessed value once you buy it. By law, taxes can only go up 5%, but once you buy it, it uncaps and it goes up for the full amount. So the property insurance, $1,600, that populated automatically. That was from a quote. Your maintenance populated. Payroll and taxes, I would say payroll and taxes is about it's 10 to 15% of your gross. So if it was 10%, it would be $2,000 a year. That's equivalent to saying that you're going to pay somebody $150 over there on a 2-flat. And what they're going to do, they're going to cut the grass, shovel the snow, any miscellaneous things that need to be done, maybe they can handle it. Or a 2-flat, you can do this yourself, okay? So you probably don't really need a resident manager. It's a 2-flat, you don't need a manager to live in, but some people might. You might be in Florida or maybe flying around, or you may want them to collect the rent, put it in the bank, and fax you the receipt, or you can just go online and see when the deposits are made too. So, or they'll take a picture and scan you the receipt. Technology make things real easy today. Property management fee, that's for your gas, your time, pay yourself. Water, $550 a unit is automatic, gas and lights. Normal capital improvements, don't forget that was $250, what we call our cap replacement, $250. But notice it said normal. Now you may have some extraordinary. That you're going to do the first year. I like to put those in a different section because it shouldn't be in the income stream because it messes up. Put it someplace else. Put it below. I'll show you. Legal and audit is 100. Administrative. Legal and audit. Even if you don't put anybody out, you got a tax return you got to do. Your accountant's going to want a little money for that. And who knows? The legal and audit you can. Do you mind if I undo my button here a little bit? I had a lot of fun last night. I was honored, and so I'm just recovering. You said, great for you, Herb. Okay, $100 for marketing on the internet. $100 goes a long ways. You know that. So I like to always get mine out to make it easy. Like this is $10,081, right? So let's say if I wanted to make this $10,000 even. First of all, let's take and get the noise out of it. It's $10,081.60. So suppose I just started off doing this, oops, and it's 325.02. So let 320, oops, that's the wrong column. That can happen easy, y'all. Let me undo all of this. Go ahead, my right column, 325.02, enter. That makes this 10,000. Then collapse it again. Go take it back, and you can do the same thing over here if you want. I usually just kind of play around with this one because my numbers may be derived, but of course you can take and play with this one here. And let's do it since I'm talking so much. And you're going to have to turn in a ProForma today. It's going to take you about a half an hour to do it, but it's part of your course. And guess what? Then you can go outside and play. And it's a nice day out, don't you think so? 6171. I'm going to see the point. I don't know about you. Okay, here we go. 6,000. Oops, that is a mistake. $617. Point 178. Now let's try that. Oh my God, John, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Let's start all over again. So I got $12,171 as a NOI. I could put just 12. I could just put 171.78. But I always think that these increase each year a little bit. So other expenses, but maybe we'll justify it. I'm just gonna put 171.78, and that'll take me to 12,000 even. Because maybe you had to do a few things the first year that you didn't have to do the second year. Okay, that's not a big thing. Okay, now notice what it says. Your most important number is this number here, your net operating income. That is your most important number. You got it? That's your number right there. I'll put it in green for you. Now, there's debt service, first mortgage, second mortgage, total debt service. And your debt service is your principal and interest payment only. Then you got debt coverage ratio, your cash flow, your equity buildup, income before depreciation. We may or may not get into that part of it as much, but look, if your market value at closing based on a cap rate that you put up above is between 110 and 133. Now, if I increase the cap rate and make it 10%, for example, it's not going to be 110 and 133. It's going to be something completely different. Let's look at it and see what it's going to be. It's going to be 10 and 120 because I already know that. Because it's 10 and 12, so a 10% cap rate, just divide the number, 100 to 120, okay? So, you know, you got to make a decision. You have some flexibility. You can take, and you may want to find out now, here, let me get a little water. What are the properties selling for in the area? The good news today, if you put 100 in, you're right. If you put 120 in, you're right. Say that one more time. If you put 100 in or 120, why? Because there's so much buoyancy in the marketplace. Two properties, identical. One of them is worth 50, the other one is worth 100. They both are right. Or you can switch it around. The purchase agreement rules, and that is a fact. The purchase agreement influences the appraiser the most. So now you're beginning to get a little inkling about how to take cash out at closing. Say purchase agreement rules. Just say that. Purchase agreement rules. Right, John?
Right.
Okay, so now look, let's just do a standard one without the fancy stuff first. So the seller, you go talk to the seller. Mr. Seller, you got a story for him. What would you take for your property? The seller said, I want to get $100,000 net out, cash. Okay, that's 100. That's what he wants. After fees, I want it after everything. Okay. So you got your closing costs. You want him to pay the closing costs. So if you think you want to, and also you got some commission. Excuse me. So if you got, so look at this number, 114,400. So we know 5,600 is available for credit repair. Okay. So let's say the 5,600, the seller allocates that, fix the house up, really nice and cool. So you got 6,000, you got your closing costs. I should probably stop here and get into the purchase agreement, but let me kind of go through this and I'll come back. So the price per unit is 60. The new mortgage is 96.5% of this number, which is 115. You have no secondary debt. Your equity needed, you need to $4,200 down. You need closing costs of $6,000. That comes to 10.2. You got a credit from the seller for that. You got the seller, gave you credit, right? Closing cost credit. And bada bing, bada boom, all you need is the 3.5% down. That's pretty simple. Now, listen, you're an agent, do me a favor. The very least you could do is make sure that your buyers don't have to come out of their pocket for closing costs. Just merely increase the price and have the seller pay it. Please do that. Please do that. Now, let's just go over these numbers really simple, because I'm fixed to make you very happy. You got $115,800 new mortgage. Your down payment $120. So you was able to get in this property for $4,200. There's no excess here. B18. Oh, total. Now we got to get this here total. Total uses. We do need that number. Uh-oh. Let's reverse it. In order to use this column here, you got to first clear content. Now once you clear it, hit this little sum and then it goes in just like that. Oh, wait a minute. 100,000, 56 for the renovation, 8,400 professional fees, closing the mortgage costs. Oh, we didn't get all of these numbers cleared. We want the 100 and everything in there. Now we talking. That comes to 120. So there's no excess. Now at the bottom here, you can play around. Let's say your retail, you're going to have a kitchen cabinets. It's going to be $5,600, and your cost is $5,600. Okay, so that kind of explained. There's no difference. This difference, by the way, is your profit. Now, I want you to run it. I want you to take and run another ProForma on a 4-flat and put in your rents. I want you to do a real one. Look up an address and run it. I'm going to give you 30 minutes to do it. And I want you to take and you could take and send it to me. Just run the numbers and send it to Strather@gmail. Strather@gmail. Just send it straight to me. I want you to run the numbers, save it, attach it, and send it to me, and I'll be back to you in exactly one half an hour. The timer?
Let's see if we can find it real.
Let's hear. Here. Oh, look at all this, John. I found it. You see this?
Okay, go with the 2-hour one, and then go ahead. Yeah, that's good. And then we'll just scroll it over.
Oh, 3-hour countdown. I don't want no 3 hours, John. This is a sucker deal.
Yeah, well, how long is it?
No, I'm going to give him a half an hour to do this.
All right.
So, I'm not exactly sure.
All right. Well, we'll get a half an hour. We'll get the timer set.
Oh, here we go.
Scroll it down to a half an hour.
John, you know what a sucker deal is?
It looks like this is a sucker deal.
It said subscribe. I'm doing something wrong.
No. Just scroll it down.
Uh-oh. See? I bought something.
We don't want that. All right. We'll get it going for everybody.
Okay, everybody. 20 minutes, John, to get it going. And John, why don't you do that? I'm going to go over here. I got someone that's in the closing room. I'm going to go close. And when I come back, I'm have some more cash. Cash at closing. Thank you. I'll be right back. You got a half an hour. Send it to me. And then we're going to get into how to take the cash out. I got a better idea. I want you to run the normal ProForma. That's a half an hour.
Okay, we're going back to you, Herbert.
Okay, I want you to run the normal ProForma for half an hour. Then I want you to run a ProForma to take cash out. I haven't explained it to you yet, but I've given you enough information that you should have figured it out. Now, and you might want to go to MLS, pull up a purchase agreement or any purchase agreement. Usually paragraph 25 or 26, which is the property inspection, the due diligence. Look what it provides. Read it carefully. And let's have a discussion when I get back. I'm going to give you 20 minutes to do the regular ProForma on a 4-flat. And I'm going to give you 20 minutes to run a ProForma and take cash out. Now, if you get it right, I'm going to let you attend one of my classes absolutely free. First time, send it over.
So that's 40 minutes altogether.
That's 40 minutes altogether, John. So click it up. out and make sure that they can do it.
You're back on.
I'm back on. All right, everybody, we're back. We're back. So, we are back. Now, tell me about your experience. Did you run the numbers? Did you send them to me? So you ran one, a simple 4 flat, and then you ran one in full cash out. So let's discuss, ProForma by itself is just a ProForma. But you have to have that theory. So let's go back. You have to have your mindset. You have to have a theory. And you have to derive these numbers not out of thin air, but with a strategy, with a sense of where you're going. So the ProForma will take you there. Now you're starting off. I mean, if I want to do a ProForma, for example, to reduce property taxes, believe me, I'm going to try to get the taxes as low as I can and get the cheapest comps I can to try to prove my point. It's a slightly different ProForma, if you will. You take the tax rate out and you put it into the cap rate. So you take 4 points out and the cap rate should have been 10, it's 14 divided into the NOI without the taxes. It's a little complicated, but if you understand what I'm saying, you got to know where you want to go and what you're trying to get to. So if you're trying to take cash out at closing, now this is just not a ProForma for ProForma's sakes. It is, if you're trying to take cash out at closing, then there's a different situation. You may not be trying to take cash out. You may say, Herb, the reason I'm not taking cash out is because I'm selling my own property at the highest price and I'm running a ProForma for somebody else to tell them they can put the money down and buy it. All the cash I'm getting, sir, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can understand that. But even then, they can take cash out if it's a residential because Detroit home mortgage goes $75,000 over and above the market value appraisal. I know you're saying, what? Detroit home mortgage, check it out. But be a little careful because their amortization period is only 20 years, which pushes the debt service up, which pushes the principal and interest, the mortgage payment up. So it's harder to qualify, but think about it. And if it's an income property, you got rents to pay. So think about it. But I think that by them making it 20 years, a regular FHA mortgage 20 years, and this amount they go over is a second mortgage, it kind of, waters it down a little bit. I mean, it taps it down because you could just go crazy. Okay, 75 grand, how much I'm putting in my pocket. So here we go. So you got the cap rate at 10. All of these things, assume all of these things are still exactly the same. Okay? But let's say it's exactly the same. Mr. Seller, how much do you want? The seller says, look, but let's just say that you're looking around, there's buoyancy in the marketplace, and this deal here, the 120, we're going to say, so it is 62. Let's say that 62 is the 12. Let's say this one here is at an 8% cap, plus 0.08. No, I'm sorry. It's plus, let me do this. Plus this divided by 0.08. Look at, so the number's 150,000. I want you to watch me, 150,000. There's great buoyancy in the marketplace. And there's a lot of communities, properties where 150, they're going for 90, 100, 120, all over the place. You do a purchase agreement, and it's 150. Now, I'm stretching it, but it's from 100 to 150, which is typical. It is typical, especially if the house is really very nice. So you're going to fix it up. So the seller says he gets 100 now. So, I want to establish with the seller, that he doesn't care how I do the deal. I want to establish with him my purpose is to supporting the comps in the neighborhood, the whole song and dance. But let's say if he'll take 100 grand, your closing cost is going to be plus 0.06 times this 150, because this is the new number. In other words, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Let me go back. I'm just going to make this 150. Make my life easy. Make it 150. So the offer price to the seller is 100. The closing cost is 7,500. How much is the repair? It's 118. So I got $32,000. 32,000 brings 150, but 32,000. I'm going to fix this property up, but just how well I'm going to fix it up. Now it's a 2 flat, so instead of spending 5,600, I'm going to really lay it out. You know, I'm going to, put new flooring in. I might just replace the plumbing. That's going to cost me about $1,500 a unit. That's $3,000. Let's go down here and figure out what we're going to do. Let's go to the bottom page here. So the roof is okay. Say the plumbing, the retail price on the plumbing is $4,000, but I can do it for $2,500. Okay. The electrical and lights, I'm going to replace some lights. Say it's $500 is the retail, but I can do it for $250. Yeah, my cousin is an electrician. The kitchen cabinets, we're going to do both of them. There's going to be $10,000 worth of kitchen cabinets. And really, I can do it for $6,600, both of them. Who cares? Okay? So, and then I'm just going to, let's say that I'm going to put the windows in. And I got a bunch of windows, and we're going to make it $12,000, but I can, as a contractor, I can get those windows in for about $6,400. So now I got $26,000. Don't forget, it's $32,000 I have to fix up, right? How much I got? 32. But I'm going to be my own contractor. You can do that, And so the outside, I'm going to fix it up. That's $3,500, $5,500. That's 32. It's $15,000 is going to really cost me. Outside, I'm going to do most of the work myself. I'm going to do $1,250. That's what it's going to cost me, because I'm going to get my nephew out there, and we're going to replace everything. So we got $1,500. $15,000 is the difference, right? So it's going to cost me $17,000. So look at this. My credit to me, mine is what? Plus? Come on, Herb. Tell me, Herb. I got it, Herb. I knew you was going to do it. Look at this. Plus 15. So what is my total credits? $22,000 now. Now, if you're a broker, and I would suppose you are, or if you got a brokerage friend and they're willing to give you some cash back, and you can, this is a cash back state, a broker can actually give you 10% of the commission. But if you're a broker, obviously you're going to do it. But even, and it gets crystal clear if you're a broker. Let's just put it in there because you are a broker. John, are these your glasses, sir?
Yes, sir.
That's okay, because what did you think I need glasses? Okay, so
Then you
this.
need 2 pairs of glasses, sir.
Oh.
2 pairs of glasses.
Okay. How's everybody doing? I know y'all said, Herb, hurry up. See the point. It's getting late. So it's $33,000. And I'm going to see the point today. If anybody want to go with me, let me know. So the down payment is $5,200. The closing cost is $7,500. It's $12,750 is the amount you need. But look at your credits. You got $33,000 in credits. From where? Closing costs? Your retail repairs is $32,000, but you're going to do it for $17,000. So you got $15,000 cash. And you got fees or other credits, $10,500. That's your commission. You can count it or not. So you're going to take out $20,000. Net equity needed, $20,000. Well, Herb, just go over that again, because I don't know where you're coming from. Okay. So it's $150,000. But let's just take this 5 out, because in reality, you're going to put it down, but you're going to take it back out. So let's don't get confused. It's $144,750. That's what you really got. You got $100 you're giving the seller. You got $17,000 in renovations, net, real cost. You got $10,000 in professional fees. Did we put the 10 in? I'm just trying to figure out if we're buying as a broker. So if you're buying in a broker, you have no professional fees. So closing and mortgage cost is $7,500. So you got $20,250. Now what do I have up at the top? I hope I got it right, John. $20,250. Woo!
There you go.
$20,250. $20,250. That says, say it, excess to owner, excess to buyers. Now, Herb, you see, Herb, you're teaching this online, telling us this. Give us the theory behind it. Okay, here's the theory behind it. I want to read this. This is the multi-list property inspection due diligence, paragraph 26. Inspections required by FHA, VA lender, or municipalities are not made for, nor should they be relied upon by buyer. Okay, you got that in bold. Brokers recommend that buyer conduct independent private inspections of property at buyer's expense. Due diligence may include, but is not limited to, any inspections or research deemed necessary for the buyer, including structural integrity, condition of the mechanical systems, environmental, health, safety conditions, surveys, or infestation. All of this is very important. You don't want to be moving the house with bed bugs. You do not want to be dealing with situations that you have mold. You don't want to be dealing with a roof. You don't want to have to move into the house and then have to start spending money. So you get an inspection period, and you go through that inspection period. If there's something that has to be done, the seller has to provide for that. Now you may negotiate. The seller say, look, I want to sell my house as is for this price. So you increase the price. You understand? Or you could negotiate that up front. Now we're going to sit down and go over in great detail how you put the deal together with the seller to make sure, and the purchase agreement and all of that. And it's even more cleverer than this, and I'll go over my agreement. As a matter of fact, under forms, if you take my class online, under forms, you could just download all the forms that I have, and you'll find it very, very interesting. As a matter of fact, if you just simply take and buy the home study course. Now, I'm not here trying to, I guess I am trying to sell you the idea that you should invest in yourself and learn learn the stuff that I have here, because you would have forms and you'll find out some very intriguing other things that is in there, and you would say, Herb, I just read your purchase agreement. It's off the hook. I'd like somebody to read it and tell me the three things in it. It's got a really good hook. But for right now, let me stick to the ProForma. To ensure extended use of premises, it is recommended that buyer research square footage, building and use restrictions, easements, ordinance, regulations, school district, and or property tax status. Definitely. If buyer does not notify seller in writing within, and you type in so many calendar days from date of final acceptance of agreement, that buyer is dissatisfied with results of the due diligence, agreement shall be binding without regard to inspections. In other words, you got 7 days from the date of this agreement to notify the seller if you're unhappy, or if you want something. But if buyer notifies seller in writing and within the specified time that, in buyer's sole judgment, buyer is dissatisfied with results of due diligence, buyer shall do one or more or a combination of the following within the contingency period stated above. The buyer has 4 options. Present to seller an amendment for mutual agreement that cites a list of repairs and or conditions to be remedied. Present to seller an amendment for mutual agreement with a credit to be applied to against the purchase price and or a price reduction in full satisfaction of inspection contingency. Isn't that something? In other words, reduce the price. Now the first one, here's the list of repairs. Mr. Seller, you do the repairs. I like that one. Present to seller a notice of dissatisfaction with due diligence, which shall render agreement null and void, in which case the seller agreed to authorize broker to return the earnest money to the buyer. See, just give me my money back. You can have this property. In the event seller and buyer are unable to reach an agreement to buyer's proposal made under A or B, buyer shall either elect to proceed with the transaction by waiving the condition in writing. This, I'll waive it, I'll take it as is, or declare agreement void by election of C within 3 calendar days of receipt of seller's written response to A or B above. Do you understand? So what are we saying? We're saying that the seller have to be responsible to make sure the buyer is happy with the repairs. Well, let me just ask you this question, okay? Let's make it very simple. Mr. Seller, do you care how we do this deal as long as I get you your cash? I don't care. Always come to an agreement with the seller. Use that first. I don't care how you do it, as long as I get my net proceeds and it's legal. Now, so You say, Herb, that's all fine and good. So you're saying to me that the seller is going to give you a check. That will never happen on a HUD. No way, Jose. That's true. But the seller can be responsible for the repairs. You say, Mr. Seller, you do these repairs. But the seller, you think the seller is going to sit up and put kitchen cabinets and put a floor in for you? No, I wouldn't. I said, look, I got a better idea. Do you got somebody want to do this here? I'll give them the check. And let me tell you something, man. You go find out who you want to do it, all right? I'll pay for it because I'm obligated to, or you're going to walk. And I'm going to put your name on it too, you and this contractor both. And I want you to sign right here. You sign off and waive. And you waive this liability, so I have no liability whatsoever. I don't want to have my contractor do it, and you don't like this, or this ain't straight, or this is the wrong color, or you misunderstood. No. I will write a check. I will have the title company write a check to the contractor to do the repairs. You understand? To the contractor, not to you, because I can't give you any money back. I can put your name on the check, so I'm protected. Do I need to say anything else? Okay. I'll talk a little bit more. Now, the question is, what is the intent? What is your intent, Herb? That's important, a buyer's intent. So I'm what you call a public adjuster. If you have a fire, I come in and adjust your work, do the repairs. So just what happened, many of the contractors I know, they've given me a formula for work, what they do. Their formula is very easy, and right now, maybe most contractors still have this on small jobs, 5, 10, 20, 100,000. I would suppose it wouldn't be true on $1 million job or something like that. But on regular sized jobs, you really double your money. And there's two rules. Whatever the material costs, that's the same amount of the labor. And then you double it. Let's say that you got a job for $30,000. Okay? $30,000. If it's $30,000, the material is roughly going to run $7,500. $7,500, and your labor is going to run $75,000. So therefore, you can make $15,000 yourself. If you're going to be the contractor, or that contractor is going to make $15,000, how about if it's your cousin? Can you help do the work? Can you pay? I would suggest that you can. So thus, now you know how to take cash out at closing. The title company can cut the seller 2 checks. One to the seller, one to the contractor. But the seller is obligated to do the repairs. Do you need any changes in the multi-lease agreement? Absolutely not. You can use the same agreement. But it's how you approach the seller and have a discussion with them. Excuse me. That's some cognac from last night. So in any event, I like to entertain some questions that you have. There's one little piece that is still hanging. And I want, in order to do this class, you each have to do a ProForma, sign the bottom of it, and get it into me. And you've got this weekend to get it into me, because I've got to fill out a little paper and send it in on your continuing ed if you're doing CE credits. And if you're an investor that's wanting to figure out how to pull cash out, that's cool too. This is our really first seminar, and I'm gonna have a string of them. And the next one I want to run this one again, probably next weekend. You can have all your friends, you can watch it again yourself. And then I want to get into the purchase agreement, because it's very, very careful. If you look at our purchase agreement under forms, if you join us, go to the bottom of Strather Academy. Here, let me just take you there now. Strather Academy. If you go to Strather Academy, at the bottom of the page, you're running to Student Corner. Now, it just so happened, there's downloadable files, and there is a password that you got to put in. I know you want the password, and I have all of these wonderful things like dual performance, goal setting, financing, and I have a purchase agreement. And I'm suggesting to you that my purchase agreement is no ordinary purchase agreement. This is no ordinary love. All of these spots here is what's different on my agreement. But I tell you what we'll do. We'll get into it later. I got one last thing I need to finish up with you before we do a wrap on this. So one of your jobs is to run the ProForma and send it back to me this weekend. I want to keep your attention right now, if you will. And I want to flip over to this one last ProForma. I know our time is getting a little short, but bear with me, please. And I know it's hot outside. But the ideal here, this is pretty simple. This is a flip ProForma. If you're doing a flip on a house, you have a lot of expenses that you really, really need to consider. And before you get into it, I want you to fill it out. So you're going to buy a house. You want to figure out what the comps are. So you get your 3 comps and you really look. But don't be totally persuaded by them, because in the Detroit community anyway, it may say 52, but you can sell it for 70. I mean, what's the trend? Is it going up? If it was 45, 55, what's the next one, 65? Okay, Detroit is trending upwards, finally. That was a problem a few years back. The appraisers would not trend. They said, that's the last price, that's what I'm going to go with. Well, how? But the supply and demand rules, you know, you're forcing people to sell houses for much less than what people is willing to pay. What happened to the arm's length market rules? So that was a problem. So right now you can trend upwards, and the most important thing is the purchase agreement. Remember, that's a purchase agreement. Thank you. So let's say that you arrive at what you think you can sell it for. Let's say you think you can sell it for $70,000 based on comps that are 60, 50, 48. You know, maybe this one here was the last sale, and it went for the 7. You know, this one here, I'm going to kind of make it a little bit more. 58. Look at this here. So you got 56, but you got 70. You got 70 in there that you're going to do it for, because one of the things with 70, you can give people money back. That's always helpful. So your after repairs is 70. So your purchase price is 12. Your rehab cost is 78. Now the rehab cost, you can put it in there. What is your rehab cost? Your real numbers. You're not trying to fool anybody. Just put them in. If it's 78, it goes in as a negative number. The purchase, this is a plus, minus your purchase price, minus your repairs, minus your holding cost. Holding cost is a cool formula because it tells the number of months, 4 months, let's say. The cost of funds is 10%, you're going to borrow 30. Well, if you get the funds for 12%, for example, it's even more. That just changed everything. It's automatically calculated. Even the transfer steps, transfer tax, broker's commission, it's all in there. So, it's $1.10 per thousand. If you got $70,000, I think that's $77. I hope I'm right. It's not $700. No, it would be 70. The transfer tax wouldn't be that much. It's just $1.10 per thousand. Okay. John, I have some concern here. Everybody, will you please double check? Because right now it just concerns me whether I pay $1.10 per thousand, and if it's 70,000, it would be $77. But I got a feeling that I'm off. Help me there. We'll find that out. I may be off a zero. Please double check what your revenue stamps are, depending on what community you're in too, by the way. So total cost is $29,377. Potential profit is $40,000, but you got concession to buyer, 6% concession, 6 times B4. 6 times B4 is $4,200. In other words, you agree to pay the buyer's closing costs. You make it build it in and tell the buyer you can do the fix up or let them do what they want to too. Maybe the $7,800 the buyer can do it It just depends. But if you're doing a rehab and you want to flip it, don't leave it to the imagination. Fix it up like it's never been fixed up before. And there are some things that won't cost you as much. Hell, if you're going to take and knock out a wall or something, when you build it back, build in a flat screen right into the wall, flush. Isn't that sexy? I mean, do something that would excite people. All of a sudden, it's 21st century kind of stuff. You can take and if you got a master bedroom, bath, you want to be a little sexy, put in a block glass where the shower is, where you can see in there, but you could get frosty so you can't see. You understand what I mean? In other words, you could get frosty so you really can't see. But, make it sexy, right? Okay, I know you said, Herb, I see how you're thinking. Okay, I get it. So the wholesale quick flip evaluation, let's look at that. You paid $12, you can flip it for $20. There's a brokerage commission. You made $6,600. All you have to do is just tie it up and flip it. But how do you tie it up? And that's another question. And it is a fabulous flipping for a living. We'll go through the flipping. And you got to get some more CE credits for that. Number of units is 1. This is a quick income approach. So you take the rent time 12, just real quick. Just time 12, taxes, insurance, maintenance, total operating expenses. Then you normally run about 4,000. NOI, 6,200, time 10. That's a value approach of 62. But suppose this was 9. Oh, no, not 9. I'm getting messed up with my decimals. 09. Now it's 68. Suppose this was 8% cap rate. 77. There you go. The value by the income approach is probably much higher than the residential value in most cases. I would say that's the case now because interest rates are so low. They're only 4 or 5%. But look how high rents are. So and the cap rates on these things are 9 to 10. So you got debt at 6 1/4 or 6 or less than 7% the debt rate, and you're buying at 9. Of course, you could finance 100% of it. Think about it. The lender wants 125% debt coverage. Can they get it? The answer is yes. So look here. Let's say you took cash out, 20 grand, and you paid this 150. Well, let's go back and look at it. Is there cash available, or did we overfinance it? No. The cash flow is $939. That's only 110% debt coverage, by the way. But with the new rents, it's 132. So this 110 would be less than the debt coverage ratio that the lender wants. 132 is adequate. But the good news on a 2 flat, they're not going to go with the income approach anyway. They're going to go with the comparable approach. In other words, what do a similar property sell for? But you need to use this because you want to look at it both ways. What does a residential property sell for? What would the income producing property sell for? Because times are going to get back to like they used to. And how times were, face it, you could take an apartment building and convert it to condos. That means you take an income approach and you convert it and sell it as residential. Now the opposite is true. You could take a condo and buy it and rent it. It's crazy. And the apartments is more than the condo in certain parts of Detroit. In certain parts. Now let's understand that. Not all of Detroit. That's certainly not true in Midtown, for example. So here you go. You're in really, really great shape. I think we've pretty much covered this. The other thing that I want to cover, now that you have the power to understand a ProForma, you can send me whatever ProForma you would like. You can send an income ProForma, and you can do it on a 2 flat, a 4 flat, or a 20 unit. But I want you to actually go and get it and do it the right way. And when I say get it the right way, you can give me evidence because I'm going to look up the property taxes and all of that. And make sure that I have your phone number and all of that because we may want to reach out to you and tell you whether you got it right. Now, you could reach me. You could reach me, herbstrather@gmail, or you could have my number that I prefer text is 313-407-4930. Just text me. You can do it now. You can text me for questions and answers. So if there's any questions that you all have, please free to call me. And then we can, of course, share those questions and answers with everybody. I hope you have enjoyed this very much. Once you get somebody else performing, you want to interpret their performance. It's not a very, very difficult thing to do if you know what you're doing. Look and see what their assumptions are based on. Don't fall for the sucker deal. Most cases, their operating expenses is not right. Property should be around $4,000 a unit. And the expense ratio, in this case we got 45%. Now that is pretty cool. So it's 18,000, and you have operating expenses of running. Well, you know, there's some things that are noticeably out. Don't forget you don't have gas. If you had to pay the gas, it would be there, and this number is kind of rich. And you don't have payroll and taxes because it's a 2-flat. So if it was an apartment building, those two numbers would push it up. Like normally under apartments, you may get $500 to $1,000 per unit that you pay in salary. That would take it up to 55% right away if you put payroll in there. We're going to take it out though, in this particular example. And you would have electrical, for example, for sure, at $125 a unit. So it's not a big thing, but it would run $250. That took it up. And gas, you would have hot water in many cases. You have one hot water tank. You may have a separate furnace, but one hot water. So, I mean, that can run $175 a year. So put $350 in there for that. And all of a sudden, look at your expenses. Your expenses is 48.95%. If you tell the guy downstairs in the apartment to shovel to keep it cool, you give him $50 off his rent, that's $60. Bada bing, bada boom, you're at 52.21%. Make sure the ratios are right. Do not fall for the sucker deal. I'll tell you what another sucker deal is. Listen to this. Let me get a little water to get rid of some of this cognac. Listen to this. And tell me if this makes sense to you. Is that the guy said, here's my tax return, man. And you look at the tax return and lo and behold, the numbers are very, very low. You say, man, look at the maintenance, it's really low. Do not fall for the sucker deal. The guy is doing the work himself and he's not paying himself for labor. You have to pay yourself. You have to pay someone else. He may be a mechanic. Are you a mechanic? Are you going to do the painting? And even if you did, you got to pay yourself. They don't put in property management. I don't charge myself for property management fee. Listen, you will charge a property management fee because the bank is going to do it, the appraiser is going to do it, and you would be a fool not to do it because all of a sudden you get ready to sell it and the value is reduced by the property management fee because you bought it without a fee, you bought it without adequate maintenance budget. It has to run at least $600 a unit. I ain't never seen a deal that doesn't run like that. Now, I'll tell you one other thing, too. Whenever a seller manages their building, their operating expenses is usually less than 50% because they're good and tight. They keep those guys working. They say, you keep working, I go get the paint. Just keep on painting. You know, because, you know, you can have somebody pouring sidewalk. They've been there all day, charge you extra, all kind of stuff. Don't do the work right, got to repaint it, got to resand it. I've been there. And my friends around here know how I think about it. You understand? Be on top of your stuff. Now, this ProForma could be used for retail, net leases, all kind of things. The next, now we're going to do another ProForma, but I'm going to run this for maybe another couple of weeks, and it's going to be up on the shelf. This is our first one, and we'll figure it out, and you can go over it. Now, we're going to now make a deal with Detroit Association of Realtors, and you're going to be able to get this teaching at a fraction, not even half, at a very fraction of cost as part of your package for being a realtor, a Detroit Association of Realtors member, not just a licensed agent. And you may be with other realtor associations, but you could join Detroit's very cheap. I think there's a package of about $25 a month you can pay. And instead of paying the $99 for a ProForma, it comes with the territory. Of course, you got to take out a year's subscription, and it's obligatory, the amount. You can't quit. You still would owe it. I think you have to pay it up front, as a matter of fact. But thank you very much. John, the phone is there, is kind of ringing a little bit. Yep. So what we're going to do is kind of sign off right now. I got to go and
collect another $20,000.
And then we'll get back to you as far as any questions. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to now rerun another performer using an apartment building, for example. Use a 20 unit, rerun it. And then we will have a chance to touch back with you, or just send it to me. And I have a chance to get back with you on this 20 unit. And let's just have let's take a half an hour and run it. And send me the stuff. I want everything that you can send me. So I want to see if I did a good job. Thank you very much. Any questions? 313-407-4930. Send the performance to Herb Strather at Gmail. Thank you.